I am a 16 years old guy, a high school senior. I had a perfect family. My parents loved and cared for each other and didn't have any major disagreements or hatred debates. Things were perfect and I never had to worry about the family front. In 2019, my mom's anxiety aggravated. She would become jumpy and scared of the slightest inconvenience. But we didn't take it seriously. She became excessively sad, lost weight, and didn't enjoy her work or house chores anymore. It was alarming for us. We took her to the doctor. After running some necessary tests, he asked my father to take my mother to a psychologist. And according to the diagnosis of the psychologist, my mom had moderate depression. She was prescribed to take some antidepressants and some exercises by the psychologist. My father was there for her. He took care of her medicine, comforted her during her cycling episodes, and even helped her with the house chores. I was impressed by my father for the way he took care of my mother like a baby. He even asked my grandma to live with us to take better care of mom when he was at work. But soon all the love and appreciation from my father turned upside down when I used his mobile. I picked his phone to Google something. Once I was done, I saw a message notification on his Facebook. I usually don't open his messages, but this was one different. It was from a young girl, and she was quite pretty. Her message was, "Thanks for the offer, sir, but I'll manage." I started reading their messages from the beginning. She was a junior colleague of my dad's team. Dad was trying to be friendly with her first. The interesting thing was that the girl was half my dad's age. She was 26 years old. I felt sick to my stomach. My dad was becoming pervert who eyes younger women and makes them uncomfortable. I confronted my dad. I was quite uncomfortable and scared about his reaction. I asked my dad about this girl and he was shocked. Then he casually told me that she was a new employee and needed his guidance to settle down and understand her work. He told me that he was helping her. I agreed with him because I honestly did not find anything fishy except that Dad offered to drop her home. After that, I noticed that Dad had put multiple locks on his phone and apps. I could no longer access his Instagram from his phone to see what he was doing. I forgot about this incident and got busy with school and spending time with my mom. But one thing that really bothered me was that he was always on his phone. I asked him why he is always so busy, and he'd brush it off by saying it was a work thing. I wanted to check his Facebook, so I entered his ID and password on my laptop and accessed his account. I know this is evil to invade your dad's privacy, but I had to do it. Anyways, after logging into his account, I saw a long chat between Dad and the new girl. Dad would regularly ask if she had reached home or if she needed anything at work and outside. The girl only replied with yes or no and kept it strictly professional. I was relieved that at least girl wasn't flirting back with him. But deep down, I knew that some other girl would come along and Dad would start a flirting with her. The mere idea of my dad having an affair behind my mom's back made me puke. I wanted to do something about it. I had to stop my dad from giving lifts to the lady at work, so I told my dad if he could drop and pick me up from the school. He was hesitant at first and asked me about the school bus. I made an excuse and he agreed to pick up and drop me off from school. I was a tiny bit relieved that my dad would no longer offer a ride to his colleague. On Friday night, I opened my dad's Facebook again. He asked his colleague if she was coming to the party and what would she wear. This was really making me sick. The girl said she would be at the party but didn't reply about her dress. My dad replied to her that he was excited about the party. The girl only sent a smiley face. I wondered why my dad wasn't taking off any cues that the girl was not interested in a man about his father's age. My dad took extra time to get ready. He used his best cologne and sprays to smell good. It reminded me of times when my mom and dad would prepare for their date night and office parties. That night, Dad came really late. I didn't talk to him that night. I knew something was going on in his mind. He wanted that girl to be friendly with him so he could cheat. A few days after, I finally cracked his phone's password and accessed his phone records, messages, and Facebook. He had deleted some of the text. I checked his gallery and it boiled my anger. Dad had taken pictures of his colleagues, and from the image quality, it looked like he secretly captured it without the consent of that lady. That was it. Why would somebody capture a woman's picture if she was just a new colleague? I grabbed the phone and marched to him. I confronted him then and there. I asked him that what this nonsense was, and for a few moments he was dumbfounded. I asked him clearly what was wrong with him and if he was planning to get intimate with this lady. Dad agreed, and I couldn't believe my ears. Once heads over heels in love with my mom, my dad was cheating on her. My dad said that mom's depression has created a distance in their relationship. My mom doesn't look presentable, she has lost weight, and is in a miserable mood. Dad said that mom is not fit to meet his emotional and physical needs. I hated him at that point. I told him that what if things were other way round? What if he had depression and my mom was flirting around with boys half her age? Dad gave me a death stare and told me to mind my business. I didn't give a damn about him. It was my mom whom I was worried about. She had also started noticing Dad's strange and distant behavior at home, but I acted normal. I did not want to worsen her depression. I was afraid that if her depression became severe, she might get suicidal, and I didn't want that. Hence, I chose to ignore my dad. There was nothing I could do to stop him. I wished that girl would remain professional or report my dad to HR for harassment. But it would have been disastrous for all of us. My dad's pay was pretty handsome. He could afford my mom's treatment and house expenses, and he also saved for my college. The tension at home was affecting my performance at school. I couldn't focus on my studies, sports, or even gatherings with friends. I became irritated and anxious about what would happen if my father actually slept with someone and left my mom. I was only 16 and I had no means to take care of my mom, my education, and my mom's treatment. I felt irritated, and the thought of a future without dad's support haunted me. I needed my dad to take care of us until I landed a job and a separate apartment. I also started noticing that my confrontation made Dad braver about flirting with his colleague. One day, he was on a call with a woman and they were discussing the timings of their date. It was some other woman he met at a pub. The woman was 48 and a widow. Both of them had started flirting for almost a month, and I knew that they both had been intimate with each other. I tried not to overthink it. I just hoped that Dad wouldn't divorce my mom. A few weeks later, Dad decided to make an impromptu trip on the weekend. He told my mom and grandma that it was a business trip, but I knew he was lying to my mom. I had overheard his conversation with his girlfriend about spending a romantic weekend out of the town. That night, I cried for my mom. She thought that she had the most caring and loving husband, but only I knew how evil he was. I was helpless. I couldn't think of anything to stop my dad, and if I exposed him, my mother's health would be in danger. My mom called my dad several times, and half of the time he told her that he was busy in a conference and couldn't talk. Mom agreed, like the good wife that she was. It was gut-wrenching to see my parents drifting apart because of unfaithfulness of my father, for whom I had no ounce of respect. I hated this man for cheating on my mom. What triggered me the most was that he would act splendidly in front of my mom and play the role of a good husband. He would ask how my mom was feeling and if she needed anything. For me, my dad was a pure Satan. One night, he came to my room to talk. I pretended to be deep asleep. He sat near my bed and said he knew I hated him for cheating on my mom. He also told me that I should understand that mom's depression isn't good for his health either. He said he feels helpless when he sees my mom upset or anxious. He missed the time they used to spend together. Moreover, he said he needed a companion and someone he could enjoy with. He told me that he would never leave mom or me. His affairs were nothing more than just entertainment for him. The other ladies in his life didn't stand anywhere my mom was. That's why I realized that my dad had been going out with more than one woman. I felt sorry for my dad too. As a son, it was hard for me to see mom depressed. It was 100 times more difficult for my dad to see the love of his life struggling with depression. I have seen my mom's condition. She sometimes slept the entire day without knowing what was happening around her. Dad felt alone when he was at home, but I still didn't think that fooling around your wife's back was okay. I asked my dad how long he would continue his affairs. Will he ever stop? Because I had a fear that he might end up divorcing my mom and get married to a younger and prettier girl. He said he wouldn't, but what's the guarantee that he wouldn't meet a striking and bold woman who will swim him off his feet? I asked my dad to leave all this behind and help mom recover, but he dismissed my thoughts. Instead, he started yelling at me. He said I didn't understand him and was just concerned about mom. Things heated up and I told him that he was a cheater and a horrible man. He got further worked up and threatened that he wouldn't send me to the college. He would stop all my monthly allowance and my dream of going to the college would vanish into thin air. He stormed out of the room and I was scared as hell about his threat. If he really cut me off, I couldn't go to college and would have to take up small jobs to manage my expenses. I hated my life and my dad felt the same way about me. He wanted me to accept that whatever he was doing was right and shouldn't be judgmental. Moreover, he wanted things between us to smoothen out, but honestly, I couldn't do it. No matter how long he was or craved for a lover, cheating on my mom while she was battling depression wasn't okay at any cost. It's not like my mom was dead and he was trying to move on with his life. He's actually moving on and enjoying his life when his wife is still alive and loves him just like the first day of their marriage. The constant emotional turmoil is just taking a toll on my mental health. My grades and performance at school were already suffering, and my father's threat served as a death blow to them. I have always been a straight A student with no problems in my studies. However, my senior year at school is miserable. I skipped my classes and failed my test. My teacher and friends started noticing my withdrawal from everything. They even asked me if everything was okay at home. I told them it was my mother's condition that had disturbed me. I couldn't tell anyone the real reason behind my stress. How could I tell someone my father was acting like a total jerk and cheating shamelessly? I didn't want people to ridicule me or make jokes about my family. I often thought of confining my teachers and sharing my problems, but there's nothing they can do, can they? Can they stop my father from cheating? No. Can they bring back how my mom used to be before depression attacked her? No. There was nothing they could do. So honestly, it wasn't going to help in any way. I am just looking forward to finishing school and heading to college. The distance and break from home might calm me, and I can stop thinking about the messy situation at home. But I also wonder if my father will get the complete license to cheat to his heart's content when I'm not around. And if my mother found out what my father was doing, all hell would break loose. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I need a solution to fix this messy situation, but I'm afraid to tell anyone about my father. Because if my father learned that I talked about his affairs with my friends or teachers, he might cut my allowance and won't give a dime for my college. I was trapped in my own house by my own father.